right, at this time, I'd like to welcome a very special guest, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Hall, who'd like to come on up to the stage.
I have to take my glasses off if I want to read anything. And I'll put them on if I want us to see the crowd. I'm an American Airman. I'm a warrior. I've answered my nation's call. I'm an American Airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I'm faithful to a proud heritage, tradition of honor, and a legacy of valor. I'm an American Airman. My nation's guardian of freedom and justice. My nation's sword and shield, its sentry and its avenger. I defend my country with my life. I am an American Airman, wingman, leader, warrior. I will never leave an airman behind. I will never falter. I will not fail. So I just recited to you was our Airman's Creed, and we adopted that. It's probably been about 10 years ago, something like that. Every time I hear it or recite it, it kind of brings goosebumps to my arms and makes the hair in the back of my head. You can imagine if you had hair, it makes it stand up on the back of your neck. And the reason for that has to do with pride. And a lot of people think that pride can be a bad thing. But when I think about pride and what these students up here represent as pride, and what this school is instilling, pride is a lot more than a negative thing in our world today. I'm proud to be a part of the greatest military in the world, and as I'm sure we're all proud to be Americans, and that's a positive way to express our pride. So when I was asked by Mrs. Redder, who actually happens to be related to me, our son and my daughter are married, she asked me to come speak at your Pride Assembly, and it's a little bit more than what I imagined. I thought the crowd would be a little bit smaller, so you'll have to bear with me because I don't really have a prepared speech. So for those of you that were in the first audience with 8th graders, this may come out a little bit different, so bear with me. But as I was coming into your building and I was wandering the halls, I noticed your Pride posters. And so I started reading through, what exactly does Pride mean for this school. And I noticed some common themes in there that you guys are instilling as your teachers, your administrators are instilling in the students here some values in their life that they can carry on into their adult life. And the Air Force has core values as well, and as does every military service. We all state them just a little bit different, but there are a lot of common themes throughout each service when it comes to our core values. The Air Force adopted 3 distinct core values that I would like to talk about a little bit today. The first one of those values has to do with integrity. And, again, if you think about pride here, one of those values that you're instilling in your students is integrity. Integrity for us is it's easy to say, I live with integrity, but it is a lot harder to live by that every day. A lot of pressures are put on us day in and day out, even as students, to do the right thing. And that's really what integrity is all about. It's doing the right thing, not only when everybody's watching, but when nobody's watching. And that's really living your life with integrity. For those of us that have served or are still serving in the military, integrity is very important to our service. It instills that trust of the American people. If we don't have integrity and live our lives with integrity, how can we expect the trust of the American people to go out and do our jobs at defending this country and defending other people who don't have the ability to defend themselves, and that's really what we're called to do. Integrity itself has some distinct characteristics that, when we think about integrity, one of those is honesty. And again, honesty is kind of the foundation of living our life with integrity. As public servants, as I mentioned earlier, we're trusted agents of you, the American public. And honesty requires us to look at everything we do every day, those standards. You talk here about living above the line. And that's exactly what we have to evaluate ourselves on every day, is making sure that we're living above the line and doing everything according to the book and not cutting corners, because when we start cutting corners, people get hurt, people can die, and things can get broken, and we lose that trust of the American people. The other characteristic when we think about integrity is courage. And when we think about courage, we think about the firemen running into a burning building to save people's lives, or we think about that Army soldier that's putting his life on the front lines and taking bullets, getting shot at. We think of courage that way, and that is courage. But don't think that courage doesn't have fear. I don't know too many people that want to run in front of bullets or run into a burning building that don't have fear. They don't have fear, then I would say they're probably crazy. But courage is important to us because it empowers us to take whatever necessary risks that we need to and make decisions and carry out our mission. And so everybody needs to have a little bit of courage in the military. The other characteristic that I think about is accountability. And accountability is that responsibility with an audience. So it's taking responsibility for your actions, for any decisions that you make, and living with those consequences, whether they're good or bad, and that's being accountable for what you're doing. It's not an easy thing to do because sometimes you do make the wrong choice, and people are held accountable for that, and people can lose jobs over that. We see that every day. But part of living a life of integrity is being accountable for those decisions. The next core value that we live by in the Air Force is service before self. And again, this is a core value that when I think about veterans, it's instilled in every veteran's mind. They volunteer, and this goes clear back to the Revolutionary War. When people volunteer to defend their country, that's putting themselves aside and putting their lives aside for a greater cause. And when I think about service before self, that's exactly what I think about. I think about my grandparent, especially my grandfather, World War II, spent 3 years in Italy. And I think about, it's not like today where most of the time we spend away is about a year at a time, and it's probably a max, and you get to come home and spend more time with your family. But back in those days, during World War II, you think about 3 years of their life spent away from their family. I remember my mom telling stories about not even knowing who her father was when he came home from World War II. She was born while he was young, and she was 3 years old before she ever saw him. So that to me, I think about my service and my sacrifices. It's nothing compared to some of those sacrifices. And I can think of several different examples through Korea, Vietnam, and even into the modern day wars that we've had today that I've experienced. The ultimate sacrifice. Every service member, when they sign up for the military, they're basically writing a blank check to the country, to the government that says, I'm willing to give my life if that's what it takes, and several people have. That in itself is service to yourself. So the characteristics within that, when I think about that, it's duty, and that's an obligation to perform what's required to get the job done. And again, I go back to times in my life where I've missed birthdays, I've missed holidays, I've missed the birth of my first daughter. And I'm not the only one. There's countless others that have experienced the same thing. But it's those kind of sacrifices that we do to get the mission done, and putting the mission above ourselves. Loyalty is also another characteristic, and loyalty is an internal commitment to success, and it's belonging to something bigger than ourselves. And when we think about joining the military, I think about that loyalty, and I think and you can carry this into any kind of profession. I think where you're loyal to your employer, you're loyal to your family to provide income for them, and loyalty to me is very important, and it's something that I strive to carry in my life every day. The other characteristic with service before self would be respect. And again, we see that in your pride commitment here at this school. Respect is just basically treating others with dignity and valuing them as individuals. We can't, in the military, we can't get our mission done if we don't respect the person to our left and the person to our right to do their job and who they are and the skills that they bring to the mission. And it's very important to us. The last value, core value that we live by in the Air Force, and I believe pretty much every service has adopted this core value in some way or another, is excellence in all we do. Again, this is one of your values here at the school, your pride motto. And excellence basically doesn't mean that we demand perfection. Nobody's perfect. We do make mistakes. We're all human. But what it means is to continuously strive to perfection. And that can come in various ways, whether it's as students here, getting a good education, not cheating your way through school. That goes back to the integrity thing. But it's making sure that you're getting that great education, or constantly improving your skill sets, your knowledge of your job, things like that. Again, we talk about mission. Mission can't get done if people aren't constantly bringing new ideas to the military, for instance. We can't stay ahead of our enemies if it's not for the bright and innovative ideas that are brought in every day. And that's one of the challenges that I would give to the students here. You think about, well, I'm just in 7th grade, but it's not very long from now where you're going to be having to make a life decision whether you go to college or whether you go out into the workforce. And I would say that the military needs bright, new ideas every day. And so for those of you that may be thinking about that in the future, there's a lot that you can offer down the road. Discipline is another characteristic and excellence in all we do. Without the discipline, you're not going to strive for doing the best. And this is an everyday thing that we have to get up and think about. It's our self-control, our self-discipline to get up and go to work every day. And this carries over into more than just the military as well. If you don't have that discipline in your life, you're probably not going to get very far in life. Life is definitely a struggle. So we demonstrate discipline in our attitudes, our work ethics, and that constant self-improvement that we're always seeking. Without that discipline, we're not going to improve. And then the last thing, the last characteristic that I think about is teamwork. And I kind of mentioned this today before, trusting around you, respecting them for their skills and their set. If you don't have teamwork, especially in the military, we work in small teams, we work in large teams. You have to come together to get a mission done. If you don't have the ability to work as a team and value what everybody brings to the fight, if you will, the mission's not going to be successful. And I truly believe that learning teamwork starts right here in school. I was just up in Mr. Redder's science class, and I know that they're working on a project up there, and they're working in teams. And excuse me, I won't step on those. I won't be able to drive home. They're working in teams up there, and recognizing the fact that they can't do that project by themselves. Well, they probably could, but it would probably take longer, may not come out quite as good. But learning how to work as a team and getting the mission done is very important in our line of work. So I'd like to conclude with just leaving this thought to you. The profession of arms, for those of you that have served or are currently serving, no other profession asks more than the profession of arms as far as these core values that I just talked about, where living above the line, service before self, striving for that excellence in everything we do. And it's a calling that every time, every person that raises their hand and takes the oath to protect this country, that's what they're striving for, are those core values. So I'd like to thank you for allowing me to come speak here today, and it's been an honor. And I just want to throw it out there for all veterans. Thank you for your service, both past and present.
Thank you again for coming in. It's truly a pleasure.